Why don't we see what our guy Teddy Covers has to say about these giant games? We have giant games in MLB, NFL, and we have that full slate of NHL that we've already broken down. Let's bring him on to the show Monday morning. Teddy Covers in the house, joining us live from Las Vegas, Nevada. Teddy Covers, how are you doing on this Monday morning?
I'm doing all right, Jimmy. I've had better weekends, but Saturday was mostly a kiss your sister weekend, and the NFL has been a little bit of a struggle for me the last couple of weeks. I'm kind of frustrated. I'm throwing out losers and picking up winners, so I'm a little bit pissed off today. But I'm all right. You know, I'm actually made a handful of bets in college football already for next week that we can talk about at your convenience.
I love it. I love it. Well, it's a holiday, so we've got a lot of action, and I'm very, very excited to get to it. First off, what do you think about the idea, if you want to fade the Nats, you should be getting more than plus 120 to have the balls to fade Strasburg and the 2-0 Nats at home? What do you think of this total that's so low at 7? What are you thinking about this Cardinals-Nats big NLCS Game 3?
So it's one of those deals where the line is kind of telling you what the right side might be. Do you know what I mean? It's so cheap on Washington with Strasburg at home that it's sort of, you know, I'm reluctant to back the Nats at this price against Flaherty tonight. The markets made it very clear they thought St. Louis was a very live dog today. And after losing the first two, that doesn't surprise me. That being said, you know, it's a Cardinals offense that's been ice cold, obviously, in the first two games of the series. And they're facing an ace-level hurler who's been at the top of his game here in the postseason. So I didn't pull the trigger. But the line itself and the series situation itself tells me it'd be St. Louis or nothing. Total-wise, I mean, the under, you know, it has not been a hot-hitting series thus far, but it's not a total that I have a strong opinion on. Stronger opinion towards St. Louis than I do over-under in this one. But like I said, I didn't get the return I was looking for. I didn't pull the trigger on the cards, but that's the way it would look tonight.
That makes sense to me, and I've just been getting crushed in the playoffs. It's so funny because I've stayed away from certain teams that would have hurt me badly, and yet I'm still losing in the playoffs. I you know what? I find that somewhat appealing, that 7, to try to get over it. Raven in the Desert saying fishy. It is fishy. And I'm going to have to. Eddie Orler liking Ducks, Bruins under, Cards, Nats under. I mean, both those plays make sense. All right, I'm not making a move at this point on this ball game, but we will be able to talk about it again on The Late Show and hear other looks on The Late Show. So let's move on to the Monday Nighter. Teddy, when I broke this game down on Tuesday, the first audible of the week, the weather report said 41 Fahrenheit, wind 16 miles per hour. When I looked again at 18 miles per hour, when I looked this morning, 4 miles per hour. And it's so important to keep an eye on what the weather reports are coming in, because that was just, I've never really seen that big of a change. And when I saw 4 miles per hour, I decided, look, I think this is too low of a total. I know there's no Devontae Adams, but we see what Rodgers does with journeyman receivers. I know that this Lions defense has been strong, but Slay questionable, secondary can be, both secondaries can possibly be abused here tonight. And I know why the market's moved in Detroit's move towards Detroit. It makes perfect sense. At the 6 is ridiculous with Patricia coming in off a bye in a divisional game. But I think this total is too low, and I'm going to try to go try to reach it. So I took over 45 at minus 115. Teddy Covers Monday Nighter, Lions Packers. What are you thinking?
Well, let's talk total first, since that's where we started. And it's certainly two teams trending over. Lions have played 4 games. They've cashed 1 under so far this season. They're 3-1 to the over. The Packers, after 2 unders to open the season, they've flown over the total each of the last 2 weeks. They've gone over 3 straight weeks, and we've seen Aaron Rodgers kind of work out some of the funk out of that offense, particularly the second half over the last couple of weeks. Certainly the game against Dallas was maybe the first time that the last 2 games are the first time that we've seen Green Bay make some kind of adjustments at halftime. LaFleur hasn't impressed me in that regard, certainly early in the season. But Lions have owned this series. They've won 4 straight against Green Bay. They've won 3 of the last 4 at Lambeau. Remember, this was a team that didn't win at Lambeau for 20-something years, and now they kind of own the Packers on that field. They closed out last season with a 31-0 shutout in Green Bay. And even with Detroit coming off a bye, that type of loss and that type of series dominance from Detroit in recent seasons tell me this is very much a statement game for the home team. Lions came out of the bye last year under Patricia, played well, won and covered on the road at Miami. They were 3-point chalk. They won that game by 11. But we look at the schedules this season. Look at who the Packers have played, okay? Cowboys, Eagles, Broncos, Vikings, Bears. All five of those, certainly four of the five are playing defense. Philly's had their problems in the secondary, but they faced a bunch of good defensive foes. Compare that to the Lions. They played the Chiefs, the Eagles, the Chargers, and the Cardinals so far. I'll take the under on how defense is as good as Green Bay's that they've seen. So we not only have the Packers in quadruple revenge after losing 4 straight, including an embarrassing Week 17 loss last year. We also have the Packers as the team that has played defenses, and the Lions haven't. Both these teams have a D, but I only trust one of these offenses to move the football tonight. Give me Green Bay minus the points. I think that, in my opinion, the stronger play than the over. I'm not going to talk you out of the over, Jimmy, but it's not something that I see on my radar right now. I'm talking about a couple of pretty good defenses, and that makes me a little bit reluctant to expect a shootout tonight.
DX Filer says, Teddy, dead on. And you certainly made the move at the right time, and that's so crucial. So did you jump on the Packers at 3.5? Is that where you got him, Teddy?
Yeah, I was debating between 3.5 and 3 minus 130, and I decided to lay the 3.5. And if Green Bay wins by 3, I'll be kicking myself. Obviously we saw last week when I talked about how I got off Nevada at 2. I'm like, I laid 2.5 and I took 3, and it ended up landing right on 3, and that's perfect. Perfect scenario when you're getting off a bet. In this instance, I decided to lay 3.5 as opposed to laying the juice. So I won't be happy with the field goal result.
Yeah, no, I can understand that, but I can also understand not taking the minus 130. We're talking about long-term success, and that's just, I can understand you making the move here. The total, by the way, that 45 is gone. Pinnacle just moved it up to 45.5, and Bookmaker is now at, I think Bookmaker was actually at 46 for a while, but that 45.5, or 45, that Pinnacle had this morning is gone. We have a question coming in about NFL, cash action bets like in lines, and the over top set like in Detroit first half. Rod Zawacki already took the under 47. There's Cuban Connect in the house. And question, have you taken a look at all at the NFL coming up, the NFL matches this week coming up?
Of course I have. Come on, Jimmy. It's Monday morning, man. We're ready to go.
We have a question from Alex Guerrero. Says, what the hell is up with the Chiefs and Rams lines this week? Why don't we just take a quick look? I do really want to hear your looks in NCAA for the week coming up, but let's just take a quick look at these lines that Alex Guerrero is asking you about. Here we go. First off, Thursday nighter, Chiefs, Denver. Total is at 49. Bookmaker hanging at 48.5. Chiefs open up at minus 3.5. It's the same situation we have in the Packers game tonight. You can get to 3.5 at around even money, or you could pay up to minus 125 for the 3 at Bookmaker. What do you think of this Thursday nighter, Chiefs, Broncos?
Well, the Chiefs have been money losers. My number's 4 on Kansas City. The look-ahead line was 4.5. The market's at 3.5 right now. And Mahomes isn't right, and he's on a short week. The Broncos defense just pitched a shutout. So I can tell you this is going to be a sharp score divide game. The Chiefs' defensive statistics are atrocious right now. And that's been really clear the last couple of weeks. So you can count on the public taking Kansas City. You can count on the wise guys taking the good defensive home dog on Thursday night. That's going to be a sharp square divide game. When it comes to the Rams and the Falcons, again, look-ahead line was 4. My powering number is 4. The betting markets are at 3 right now. Rams offense is kind of broken, and we saw it in the play calling. Where, look, Atlanta's an unbackable team. I'm with you on that. And I can understand the case for the Rams here, after suffering the first 3-game losing streak in the McVay era and taking a big step down in defensive class. I can anticipate LA taking some money in this ballgame, maybe a fair bit of money in this game off the opener of 3. But Rams aren't right now. On either side of the ball, and that's certainly, not easy to. You can understand why it's not more than a field goal on the road, even against a bad team like Atlanta. I mean, LA, whatever they were last year, this year they're not that. Last year's last year. This is, when you talk about mid-October power rating adjustments in the NFL, I'm not shy about moving my numbers significantly at this time of the year, because guess what? Last year's gone, and right now the Rams are a mediocre football team, laying a field goal on the road against a bad football team, which is a fairly typical point spread.
Rams look terrible. Every line I see from the Falcons looks appealing, and that's just a vividness bias. I've got to stay off of it, but my under 10.5 on the Rams season win total is going to be glorious for me. I watched that game too. I was on the under in Rams 49ers, and that was just glorious. But I was also on the Falcons -2.5, and but going back to this Kansas City-Denver game, I was watching the game with Flash. I was on Texans +5. I was watching the game, and that second time Mahomes rolled over his ankle, I was like, oh, man, this is going to be such an easy casher. And everything stopped for the Chiefs in the second half after he rolled his ankle a second time, and now he has to show up on Thursday night. You want to talk about that, Teddy?
Well, I was just going to say that everything stopped for the Chiefs in the second half because of their defense. Not because, their offense went 3 and out. They never even got a chance to get in rhythm. It was a couple of third down calls that Andy Reid said after the game, I wish I could have had those back. But in between those 3 and outs, there was like an 8-minute Texas drive and then another 7-minute Texas drive. They just kept the ball out of that Chiefs offense hands, and Casey couldn't find the rhythm.
Yeah.
I don't know that it was Mahomes as much as it was situationally. They just never got the ball back. The defense couldn't get a stop. Although that could change against Joe Flacco.
I personally think when your quarterback is limping between plays and all the histrionics, they weren't on the sidelines. On the sidelines, he's cool as ice. But he's anguish in his face after plays.
Remember, the Chiefs didn't make a move for a Teddy Bridgewater in the offseason. They made a move for Matt Moore and Chad Henne. And you want to talk about an offense that's not going to work with Matt? Any game that Kansas City doesn't have Patrick Mahomes, you fade the Chiefs, because that offense did not work and will not work with Matt Moore or any other quarterback, any backup quarterback. They don't have a Chase Daniel. They don't have a Teddy Bridgewater. They have a 15-point drop-off between their starter and their backup. They're like the Jets with Falk versus Darnold. But much greater than that even. An offense that's not going to work versus an offense that's just fine. So they can't sit Mahomes. They didn't spend money on backup quarterback.
Yeah, I find Denver quite appealing right now, but I'm going to take some time with that before.
Wait.
Yeah, I agree.
There's no rush to bet that if you like Denver. You'll find by kickoff at recreational shops, you'll get a 4 with Denver. I would think. At least, I wouldn't be shocked at all to see a 4.
Yeah,
or higher.
Without a doubt. Cuban Connect saying, Jimmy, what you see on the Oilers-Hawks game, Hawks with Crawford are a fade. Hawks with Lehner are very interesting. And so I need to find out who's in goal for the Hawks. And AM asking what hockey I'm on. Afternoon games make me uncomfortable. And I'm going against the market move. And I'm taking the under 6.5 in the Senators game. And I really, really like it. If it was a night game, I'd be so confident. The only concern is afternoon game, but I love going against this market move. When people I think are making a mistake on the Wild after 4 games, that's no sample size to make a mistake on. Boudreau's going to have them playing tight defensively. All right, let's get into NCAA football. And man, I was bad. I just bad this weekend. And my record is paying the consequences. I went 3-6 and started 2-1, and then the moves I didn't make. Of course, it was just one of those days that upset me. Can we pop up that NCAA football record? Ugly. Now 51-53, down 6.3 units. Disappointing. So let's get to work right now. Let's pop up with Teddy Covers and see what jumped out at you. You've said you've already looked and made some bets. We would love to hear them. What is the games that jumped out at you when you took your first look at this card, Teddy?
Sure. I got to do my recap too, though, Jimmy. I went 3-4 with the plays I gave on the show on Friday, and it's freaking frustrating. That That Oregon-Colorado game made me so nuts, dude. I was raging on Friday night, and I don't get that way very often, but I had a big bet on that over. And, of course, Oregon did everything they were supposed to do, and Colorado would get to the 10-yard line and throw 4 incomplete passes. It was really frustrating. That over 59 didn't get there. Texas was good. Iowa State was good. The Washington Huskies was good. Eastern Michigan had it and then lost it at the end. Houston, oh, my God. If you watched the last 2 minutes of that game, you know what I'm talking about. If you didn't, you're just going to see the final score. But Houston was in position to get the money at plus 7.5. They missed a 2-point conversion. We had a missed 2-point conversion all over the place. But to be down by 8, and then they had fumble Ruski on the last play to give a 15-point margin. That was frustrating. Fresno was wrong. I had a wrong side. And Fresno was not the right side in that game. I was impressed with how Air Force bounced back. When it comes to looks, the early looks for this week. So you got to recap. You have to go back. What did I do wrong? What did I do right? What did I get unlucky with? And not like Eastern was a right side. But that was a coin flip game, and I was on the wrong side of that coin flip. I don't even know if that was probably a 40% play. It wasn't a dead nuts wrong play. It wasn't at Fresno, for example. So I don't beat myself up over an Eastern the way I beat myself up over a Fresno. When it comes to the stuff that I bet, again, the stuff that I'm getting down on immediately, Sunday night / first thing Monday morning has everything to do with where the line's moving. I had 14 games that I circled last night. Hey, man, you're interested. Let's watch these numbers. And ended up making 6 bets out of the 14 because those are where the numbers are moving right now. And we'll see what happens with the rest. I played Duke plus 4. That's gone. It's 3.5 now. Virginia's offense is not good. I tried. We saw it again. And all Duke has done is overachieve. So I thought the Blue Devils plus the 4. That's betting number 317. I believe it's the first game on the Saturday card. I'm riding Central Michigan. There's 2 teams I'm riding we've talked about. And I played them both off the opener. I played Central Michigan minus 10. That's betting number 335. They covered again against New Mexico State. And I covered Iowa State. That's betting number 401. I bet Iowa State. Betting number 401 minus 6. I thought there was a decent chance that'll go to 7. Central is already up to 10.5. So, again, Duke plus 4, Central minus 10, Iowa State minus 6. Betting number 372. I bet Wazoo minus 13.5. I thought it was a decent chance this goes up to 14 or higher. Colorado's a banged-up mess. Maybe their offense plays better than it did last week. Their defense isn't going to get stops against Wazoo. I think it's a really tough matchup for the Buffs, and I think it's a get-right spot for Mike Leach's kid. So I laid 13.5 with Wazoo. I laid 1.5 with Northern Illinois, betting number 363. I thought that was really cheap against Miami-O. My market number and the mainstream market number for Miami-O are really different. They got blasted at Western last week, and I'm like, my number was really cheap compared to the market number, or my number on Western was much higher. And I'm continuing to see a disparity between my numbers and the market numbers. Northern Illinois has always been a bet-on road team in recent years, and I think they're better than Miami. I laid 1.5 with the Huskies. And last but not least, you guys are going to love this one, and I did it. I laid it because I saw money coming at penny on the favorite. I don't know if I'm going to hold it, but I laid -3 with Rice. Rice is going to get a win this year. They're not going to go winless, and this is the team they're supposed to be. This is the team they're better than. They're off a bye. It's if you're asking a bad team to do something, this is the right time to ask a bad team to do something. It's a Rice spot, and Rice is a better team, and I laid 3 with a winless foe on the road. I did it. What's that? Has that number moved? Yeah, the last I saw it was 3, and it was 3 minus. I was 3 minus in a couple spots. That's betting number, by the way. Rice is 4.15. And look at that. It's already moved to 3.5. So I'm glad I got down. Good. I saw the market moving, and I'm grabbed it. So I got the best of the number on that one. But you can still find 3s right now if you are willing to lay a field goal with a team like Rice on the road. Of course, when you're playing a team like Texas San Antonio, you can understand why you might want to lay a field goal with a team like Rice coming off a bye and the one winnable game they have, yada, yada. But this is Rice's game.
I love it. Thank you for sharing your 6 looks. Duke plus 4, Central Michigan minus 10, Iowa State minus 6, Washington State minus 13.5, Northern Illinois minus 1.5, Rice minus 3. God, what a treat it is to hear your looks after surveying the card over the weekend. Very exciting. If you have questions, start rolling them in, and we have them coming in fast and furious. Yeah, and you're right. When I say I went 3 and 6, I mean, everyone can see what I did on Twitter. But going over it, I did jump on that UNLV Vandy under that you like. That was a great call, and that was a nice, easy win. I did lose with Eastern Michigan and Fresno State as well. I won with Bama and LSU, and that was fortunate. Missouri won by 11, and I had them at minus 11.5, and that was very frustrating spot there. And then Wake Forest was clearly a mistake against Louisville, and then my late two games that I thought I was again. I can't believe I keep doing it. I'm saying no Pac-12, no Pac-12, but I took Arizona plus the points late, and at the half, I'm sitting there feeling good about myself. And then I was also on Wyoming plus 3.5, and if I had got the better number of 4, that would have been a push, and that was my mistake. Taking it late, feeling like there was a good spot. So that's my review. Very disappointing. And saw a lot of guys eating. Big Ragu absolutely destroyed the NCAA card, and very disappointing. Okay, we have questions coming in fast and furious. Let's start with Sue's 387. Says, Teddy, Hawaii versus Air Force over this week? Question mark. Or do you think Air Force burns the clock?
So the very first reaction was to this game was like, oh my God, this isn't over. And then my second reaction was, wait a minute, how many drives are there going to be in this game? And I started looking at some Air Force Hawaii recent series history, and I'm like, geez, you can see why this total isn't where it is. This drive, it's going to have 7 drives in this game, and Air Force is going to have to score touchdowns on all of them. So my initial lean was absolutely towards the over. And now, once I did some initial work on the game, I'm like, geez, the offensive efficiency is going to have to be through the roof here. Still lean that way, but at first look last night when I was examining this game, it was one of those that, oh wow, this is why, So I wasn't quite as excited about it as that first lean. It's on the list. I made the list, but it's not anything that I was like, I got to pull the trigger on this right away. I was definitely concerned about the Falcons just slowing this game down, where it's in a 7-minute drive followed by the 8-minute drive, and then you kick a field goal and then you're over's dead,
I hear that. That's a very interesting take. And Sue's 387 saying, I just don't know if Air Force can stop the pass. We've got time to break down these games all week long. Although, as you saw with my action last week, you do got to get ahead of these market moves. Next question from A. Hill. He says, Jimmy, can you ask Teddy about Arkansas and Auburn? Rotation number 391, 392. Arkansas at 18.5. There's 18s at some books. Let me get to spreads and totals here at sportsbookreview.com and the SBR odds page. Here we go. Auburn, Arkansas. No total yet, of course. What am I thinking? Plus 18.5 right now for the dog. What do you think here, Teddy? Arkansas, Auburn.
Yeah, we have totals at one book here in Vegas. The Circa puts them out as 54.5. As their opener, but I've seen their totals be 6 points off the market at times, and nobody bets them until somebody else opens up. And they're like, all right, bet this here, bet that there. They don't get a ton of action. I don't have a strong opinion on the total. I'm not convinced that Arkansas is going to be able to move the football against this defense. I like the concept of Auburn coming off a bye and a loss, but laying this price on the highway is not something I'm very comfortable doing with Tigers team that's been a little bit limited offensively. Probably not a game I'm going to get involved with.
Probably not a game you're going to get involved. Fatfish saying over 1.5 goals first period. Bruins, Ducks. I would need way more than minus 105 to. This is going to be Gibson and Halak. It's going to be tight defensively. No, I would not take that Fatfish, and I would not take the under juice the way it is either. I would. Afternoon game, I would just kind of stay off that. I know it's a boring answer. I apologize. Okay, we have questions coming in fast and furious from Christopher Comatini. Our guy Comatini says, does Teddy like Arkansas State plus 5.5 versus ULL?
So that line stood out like a sore thumb to me. My number came, I think it was 1. I was way off. I might have even been pick 'em. Let me just check that. But I remember I'm like, wow, they're really respecting the Raging Cajuns. I was surprised at that number. Yeah, my number came pick 'em. The only way I would look is Arkansas State, but when my number's that far off from the market number, that's not one that it's one thing if it's a couple points off. All right, hey, my opinion is different. When I'm 6, 7 points off from the market, all right, what am I missing? And you start to look at the defensive stats. You're like, okay, only one of these two teams can get stops. And that's why this number is where it is. Really dramatic defensive disparity between these two teams. And that does concern me about the home dog in this one, even with their offense being as potent as it is.
Questions coming in next from our guy, Casano Magic. Casano Magic talking about, okay, we've already talked about the Air Force Hawaii game. So, I'll get the rotation number for your next game quickly. But first off, Eddie Euler saying, Teddy, SMU over again. They are 6-0 to the over.
Yeah, what was that? There was an interesting game. Who'd they playing? Because they had a game that stood out to me. Give me 1 second.
No worries. My fault. I don't have all the rotation
and of
numbers.
course, it was Temple. Yeah, it was Temple. And I was wrong. That's one that I was wrong about. I was like, I don't think that Temple can do it. And I'm like, Temple correlates with under against Memphis. And that wasn't the case. Temple and over against Memphis. That offense was good enough to move the football against. It was as good as I've seen Temple's offense play all year. I was impressed with what they were able to do. And SMU is not loaded defensively. That's not who they are. They're, they are a Dykes team. They are going to. I wouldn't talk you out of any SMU over. I'll just leave it at that, even against a team like Temple. But because I was wrong about Temple's MO last week, it's one that I need to think about and examine, figure out, okay, did I miss the defense that Temple was playing again, or is this offense as good as it is, as good as they looked? Because Temple's offense hadn't impressed me, and it definitely impressed me this past Saturday. And if they can do that at SMU, they can cover, and the game will go over the total.
Go over the total. And next up, we have, and this was Casano Magic's next question, was about rotation number 395, 396, Tulane, Memphis. Memphis -4.5. We just talked about the Temple-Memphis game. What do you think Memphis does against Tulane this week?
So Tulane is officially a team that I have no interest in stepping in front of right now. My number's 4. Tulane is whipping some teams. And one thing that, when they've gone back-to-back weeks against teams that couldn't handle their athleticism defensively, and now they're facing a team that can, which is probably a negative. It's just like if you face the Dolphins every week and then you face a real team the next week. That can be a problem. But it's a team that has very much impressed me in early season play, and I'm really not in any rush to step in front of them.
Understandable. Daniel Kim liking Tulane +4. Guru Sports Bet says Temple's my favorite home dog in the country. The next question is from our guy Gary Wyatt. He says, "Hey Jimmy, I'm liking Ole Miss to cover against Texas A&M. Could you ask Teddy about it? Rotation number 393, 394, Texas A&M, Ole Miss, Texas A&M opening at -5.5 at -120. Now 6s across the board. What do you think of this spot?"
So I talked about some of the bets that I made. I didn't talk about the bets that I didn't make. Because the numbers aren't there. I'm like, oh, I'm interested in this side, but let's see where the number moves. One of the ones I was thinking about was A&M against Ole Miss, and I didn't pull the trigger, and the 5.5 went to 6, and the 5.5 to 6 isn't going to kill me. Even at 6.5, if I decide that the Aggies are the right way, I'll pull at 6.5. If it gets to 7, that'll be obviously, okay, well, I missed that one, but I know you're coming off Bama and a disappointing loss to Bama, but there were a lot of, for as disappointing as that was, there were a lot of positives for A&M in that game. Notably, that Mons actually faced a good defense and didn't screw up 100 times, which is a positive sign. I like the Fisher quotes after the game. I like the way the Aggies' attitude after the game, and I think they're a good notch or two better than their opponent. I really do. So my lean was towards the Aggies minus as opposed to the Rebels plus, but I haven't pulled the trigger on it. That being said, it made of the 14 games, that was one that did intrigue me.
Do you think Louisville can stay within 24 against Clemson Saturday morning?
No. Louisville's defense isn't going to stop Clemson. And, they're really not going to stop Clemson. And Louisville's offense, go take a look at their strength of schedule and find me a defense that resembles Clemson. There isn't any. I don't want the dog in that one.
It's 33.5, too many points for Oklahoma against West Virginia.
No strong opinion. I mean, when we start getting into the 4 and 5 and 6 touchdowns, I don't make a lot of spread ranges. I don't make a lot of bets there. You know, you can't love the spot for Oklahoma coming off Texas. There was some things I really didn't like about this. You know, I mean, I understand that I was fairly lucky to get in through the back door with the Longhorns. That being said, I'm not sold on Oklahoma. I'm not, of these upper echelon teams, the one that, and they were saying, oh, the announcers, oh, look at this defense. That defense is great.
Yeah.
I'm not sold on this. Of the elites, Oklahoma to me is the one that's a step down, and maybe on both sides of the football. I understand their numbers are ridiculous. They put up huge yardage numbers, huge edges in every game, even against Texas. Which means that they're going to be an overvalued commodity. So I guess if I had to play it, but let's see what's going on with the West Virginia quarterback situation. We don't even know the status yet. So that's something that we have to pay attention to over the course of the next couple of days. But I know I won't be laying it with Oklahoma this week, and I doubt I want the Mountaineers.
Lockin 24/7 has a question for Teddy. Says, can you ask Teddy if they think rotation number 375, 376, if Kentucky can stay within 24.5 against Georgia coming off that shocking loss this past weekend. What do you think about Kentucky staying within 24.5?
So it's a fascinating game. It really is. I want to see what I can get. I don't want coaches' quotes. I want to see some player quotes out of Georgia this week. One of two things are going to happen. Either Georgia's going to come out flat as a pancake or Georgia's going to smack this team 59-0. And it's either one is capable of happening. It's not so late in the season. Once you get into November and a team suffers their first loss and now they're out of it, those are teams that you're very reluctant to back the next week. But Georgia's not there yet, and if Georgia wins out, all their goals are still they're still capable of accomplishing every single goal. So I'm not convinced that it's a stick of fork in Georgia time yet. And again, they played a really crappy game, particularly on the offensive side of the football. Let's give South Carolina some credit. Back-to-back games, the Gamecocks have been impressive on both sides of the ball. Maybe they're a team that we should be giving credit to as opposed to ripping Georgia. But certainly, and the one thing, because it hasn't happened so much with Alabama and Clemson, everybody gets tested. Clemson's been tested. Alabama's going to face a test somewhere. Georgia faced a test and they failed it. They got a chance to undo it, and they failed it again in overtime. They got a chance to undo it, and they failed it again in double overtime. That happens. But player quotes are what matters this week, not coaches' quotes. That's what I'm interested in looking for and researching for Georgia. Right now, I have no opinion on the game. I wouldn't be surprised, again, if they kill them, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're in a battle. Kentucky's not very good, which is something of a concern here. Certainly not on the offensive side of the football.
We have Eddie Euler saying, Teddy, Oregon now 1-5 to the under with that D. Lean under in Washington in rainy Seattle. 12th ranked Oregon, rotation number 367, 368 against 25th ranked Washington. Oregon at -3, and I don't have the total on any of these online books at this point.
53.5.
Okay. Do you think we can get under that?
At one book. I wouldn't play it over. Washington is not an over team. Okay. And recent meeting, 3 of the last 4 meetings between these two teams, Oregon hasn't gotten into double digits. My initial lean was towards the Huskies as the value in this side. I don't know if I get there or not. And at 2.5, I didn't want to pull the trigger. I expected it to go to 3. It's already at 3. Let's see what it does from here. But my initial lean is Washington, and Washington correlates with under, most assuredly. I don't know if I get there. Even with the Huskies' blowout win, it's blowout second half against Arizona. There's something about that team that doesn't. I'm not convinced they're right. I'm just not. And I can't put my finger on it. It's like maybe Eason hasn't gelled with his teammates in the appropriate way, is coming over as a transfer. I really don't know what it is with Washington. I lean there, but I'm not going to get the window. Under makes a ton of sense. Sorry, I'm babbling on a game. Sometimes it helps me. I talk a game out. I'm talking it out and thinking about it, talking it out and thinking about it. So, but sometimes I'll go on, and that'll waste your time. So I apologize. It's a game I'm clearly still thinking about. But I wouldn't talk you out of the under at all.
Kevin Tantillo says, what is Teddy's opinion on the Baylor game? Rotation number 389, 390, Baylor, Oklahoma State. Oklahoma State opening at -3.5 at plus 107. So all the other books are at 3, -105 or -110 between that. What are you thinking, Baylor, Oklahoma State?
So Baylor's going to lose a game. Baylor's going to lose several games. They're good. They're not great. They're flying high. This is the game they're coming off a rested opponent, off a loss. This is the game Baylor's supposed to lose. I mean, it just is. The problem is I continue to be underimpressed with Oklahoma State. I'm not excited about that team. My powering number is only 3, even with them coming off a bye. And that's the most I would lay here, would be 3. And as you talked about, the market's already moving to 3.5 and beyond on that game. So again, it's a game that Baylor's probably supposed to lose. But the price isn't the price I was hoping for, especially, I mean, Baylor's defense is real. Their offense isn't, but their defense is pretty darn good and not always easy to lay to win by margin against a team with a strong defense.
We have Prince of the City and Topset, both liking Michigan. 421, 422, rotation number 16 ranked Michigan, 7 ranked Penn State, both liking Michigan at +9. What do you think here?
I don't think I'm going to get to the window with Michigan at +9. I don't like this matchup for the Wolverines, and it's time to, and again, we're mid-season. Teams are what they are now, and Michigan is not a good offensive team. They're not. And to see them fall asleep with a big lead in Illinois, and then all of a sudden now you're life and death to win the game, and if the Illini with their backup quarterback don't screw up, the defense doesn't make a couple plays, they could have lost that game. There's been too many lifeless periods for the Wolverines on the highway. We saw it in Champaign, we saw it in Wisconsin, and in Madison, and we see that in Happy Valley. Penn State will run them out of the gym, run them off the field. That's a strong home field. That's not a strong. You talk about home fields in college football, that means something. Happy Valley at night means something. I'm probably not going to get there with Michigan. I know I'm not going to get there with Michigan. At the right number, I'll get there with Michigan, but not at 9.
Not at 9, looking for more. What a treat it is to have Teddy Covers here every morning, Monday to Friday at Betting with the Bag. He shared with us his early looks, where he got to the window. Teddy, Duke +4, Central Michigan -10, Iowa State -6, Washington State -13.5, Northern Illinois -1.5, and Rice -3. Teddy Covers, what a treat it is to roll with you, and can't wait to hear. And I need to step my game up. I don't know if I lost focus or what exactly was going on last week, but it's not going to happen this week. I'm going to be focused, and that kind of the edge of anger is a good edge, I think. It keeps you sharper and keeps you more focused, and I'm going to be using that all week long. Follow Teddy Covers on Twitter. All low baggers follow me. He's a great follow. Teddy_Covers. Very active, especially on the weekends. Teddy, thank you so much for joining us on this Monday morning. Let's have a big week.
Don't get mad, Jimmy. Get even. Love it, guys. We'll talk to you tomorrow. I'm looking forward to a big week myself. I could use one. One game under. No. Let's go pound something this weekend. I'm with you, brother.